I had like a ponytail on the top of my head and I was whipping it around like that. And my head ended up getting stuck like literally to the side like this. And like it's as dramatic as that. Like I'm not even over exaggerating. And my mom ended up taking me to urgent care to get it checked out and stuff. But the doctor that was on call, it was a Sunday and it was like kind of later in the evening that we went. So I'm assuming he just wanted me in and out. He wanted to probably go home, but he told me that it was just a muscle strain and that an ultrasound wasn't needed. My mom was like on it. Like she wanted me to get checked out for everything because she was like pretty concerned about it. So yeah, he sent me home, told me to take ibuprofen and that it wasn't a big deal. So I didn't get proper treatment or diagnosis of that at all.
This is the Recovery After Stroke podcast with Bill Gassiamis, helping you navigate recovery after stroke.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. Recently, Spotify released a new feature which allows people to now rate their favorite shows similarly to how the Apple Podcast app allows it. If you think my show, the Recovery After Stroke podcast, deserves it, I'd love it if you left the show a 5-star review. This will help the show rank better on search engines and help newly diagnosed stroke survivors find the show quicker, better and easier, and it could make a massive difference in their recovery. So it would be a tremendous honor and you'll be doing me a great favor if you go to your favorite podcast app and share what the podcast means for you. It really will make a huge difference. Thank you so much. Now, this is episode 180 and my guest today is Shaelyn Poisson, who was left with hemiplegia after an ischemic stroke, which was caused by a carotid artery dissection at just 17 years of age. Shaelyn Poisson.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
That's the first surname that I've tried to pronounce, and I couldn't do it justice. I've never spoken French before, but I'm going to blame my stroke. It's because of the stroke that I can't pronounce it.
Totally fine. It's all good. Lots of people don't really get the pronunciation on that one.
Your surname is spelled Poisson, so I imagine most people just say Poison.
All the time. That's the majority of the things I get. It's kind of funny, actually. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your stroke and what happened to you.
Okay, so well, I was 17 at the time. I think I was like a week or two away from turning 18. I was a university student. I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was incredibly stressed out and just super busy all the time. My schedule was completely packed all the time. And I was studying at my ex-boyfriend's house for a midterm that I had coming up. And we ended up getting in an argument and lots of just stress going on in my life at the time. And long story short, I was about to leave his house, but he was trying to make me not leave his house. He was at my car and we were kind of just going back and forth. And I ended up feeling what felt like a pop in like the side temple of my head. And I've heard actually another girl on your podcast kind of describe the same thing. And I was like, oh my God, that's really weird that we kind of experience the same thing, but I guess that's what it is. And immediately after I felt the pop in the side of my head, I kind of went into like what I call like a trance type thing. I remember being like in like a complete state of confusion and just like not really, I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I know he was talking to me. And next thing I know, well, from what he told me, I fell out of the left side of my car, which makes sense, considering my paralysis is on my left side of my body. And he grabbed me so I didn't hit the ground, obviously. And he ran me into his house. And that's when I like immediately just started uncontrollably vomiting. And I didn't want him to call my mom because I didn't want my mom to like be mad that like we got in a fight and I don't know, whatever. But either way, he obviously called my mom because something bad was happening with me, clearly. So she arrived and she immediately wanted to call the ambulance. So then the ambulance came, and unfortunately, since I was a really young girl, I was 17, they had like really, unfortunately, a bad impression of the scenario that was going on. And they automatically assumed that I was either on drugs or drunk or something. That obviously was not the case. I was literally studying for a midterm that was coming up. So not at all what was happening there. But because they had that assumption of me, that kind of carried over to my hospital experience that ended up happening that night. I have a video up on my YouTube channel, but kind of describing every event that happened that night. But essentially the doctor and the nurses honestly were very unprofessional and really rude to me and my family members, more specifically my mom. And it was a really bad experience. And I ended up not getting diagnosed for 10 hours. So I was stroking for 10 hours before they even got the idea that I might be having a stroke. And honestly, it wasn't even the doctors that diagnosed it. It was my mom and my ex. They kind of were like, okay, so what are her symptoms? And they ended up Googling. And then when the Google search came up, it was stroke, stroke, stroke. And they're like, okay, we got to tell somebody she's probably having a stroke. So yeah, that at that point, I wasn't eligible for the clot buster. Yeah, the TPA. So I believe that left me with probably worse off results than I could have been, but
okay,
it is what it is.
So you heard a pop, so was it actually a bleeding blood vessel?
I had a previous neck injury. I think it was like 3 months prior. And so what had happened was my carotid artery had a micro tear, they called it. So that was probably bleeding over the course of 3 months, formed a clot. And then in that moment of stress and everything, it shot up into my brain and stroke.
Okay, so this is what I think happened based on what you said. I'm not a doctor, but I've interviewed a lot of people who had similar strokes.
Yes.
So what you had was a carotid artery dissection inside the blood vessel. Mm-hmm. That kind of creates a flap inside the blood vessel wall, and then it changes the blood flow around that flap, and that blood flow kind of creates a little clot, and then that clot eventually gets bigger and bigger. It either blocks the blood vessel or it moves up into the brain and causes a blockage. And depending on where it is and the size of it, then it can be more severe. Now, how did the neck injury happen? Do you recall what that incident was?
Yeah, so I had been a dancer my whole life from like age 3, honestly. I mean, I guess that doesn't really have anything to do with this, but I loved dancing my whole life. And so it was just one day in the car, I was dancing with my best friend at the time. And I had like a ponytail on the top of my head and I was whipping it around like that. And my head ended up getting stuck like literally to the side like this. And like, it's as dramatic as that. Like, I'm not even over exaggerating. And my mom ended up taking me to urgent care to get it checked out and stuff. But the doctor that was on call, it was a Sunday and it was like kind of later in the evening that we went. So I'm assuming he just wanted me in and out. He wanted to probably go home, but he told me that it was just a muscle strain and that an ultrasound wasn't needed. My mom was like on it. Like she wanted me to get checked out for everything because like necks are pretty serious, especially injuries. So she was like pretty concerned about it. So yeah, he sent me home, told me to take ibuprofen and that it wasn't a big deal. So yeah, I didn't get proper treatment or diagnosis of that at all. So
how old were you then?
I was 17. That was only
Uh,
about 3 months prior to my stroke. So
okay. So that ponytail movement, kids just mucking around, having fun, just being silly, right? Which is
yes.
just normal life. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Caused a tear in the carotid artery, and that
Yes.
caused the later stroke. So a couple of things went wrong, all in the damn correct order for you to end up in hospital undiagnosed for 10 hours.
Yes.
Because everybody was flippant on their responsibilities, I think, in checking out somebody who presents and making assertions and judgments and all these assumptions based on no evidence that and then perhaps putting themselves first, I need to go home or whatever it is,
Yeah.
or I'm too busy, or she's probably taken drugs. I mean, so much bullshit
Yeah. Exactly. I know.
that could have all been avoided. How does that make you feel? Because
Ugh.
I'm hearing that and I'm getting really frustrated and mad and angry right now. And
Yeah.
how did it make you feel?
I mean, it was really such a whirlwind. Like that whole night, that whole experience, my mom kept saying, like, somebody please pinch me because this can't be real. This has to be like the worst nightmare humanly possible. Like it was honestly just hard to believe, even months afterwards, that this was reality and this had happened to me. And it could have been, most of it probably avoidable if I had gotten the chance to have TPA. Who knows? Honestly, you can't turn back time and see, but I mean, yeah, it's definitely upsetting because I was very active girl, soccer player, dancer, like lots of stuff going on in my life. But on the bright side of things, I definitely took it as a sign to kind of just like slow down completely, because obviously can't handle that kind of stress. Stress is not good for anybody, honestly. But yeah, I guess I like to look on the bright side of things. So
Yeah.
I took it as I need to slow down and go at a better pace. So
How old are you these days?
I'm 24 now.
Okay. So it's been a good amount of time that you've had to grow, really, to grow, to learn to live with it, to find ways to continue to live your life. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
it's been a few years. What do you think was the hardest part at 17 for you? Because, like you said, life was normal, quote unquote, for a 17-year-old, and then you're recovering from hemiplegia. You wake up in the hospital, you can't walk, and
Yeah.
what goes on after that? How do you approach your recovery?
Honestly, it was like I don't really recall like thinking anything. A lot of the people surrounding me, like the nurses on like the floor that I was on was great. The emergency room, I have other things to say about that, but yeah, they were really great and supportive, and everybody was really positive speaking to me. And it was always, oh, you're going to go through physiotherapy and you're gonna beat this and recover and you're going to get back to quote unquote normal life. And that's all I had in my head because that's all everybody was feeding me. So I was just kind of rolling with the punches and going through the motions of kind of just doing the recovery thing and going to physiotherapy. And so I didn't really have any other thoughts, I guess, going through my mind.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you were just going with the flow, and the flow was heading towards rehabilitation, getting back on your feet, recovery, getting back on your into your life. How long did it take before you actually got back to whatever it was that you were doing before the stroke? I think you were studying, were you?
I was, yeah. I never ended up actually going back to dance, unfortunately. That was like my main goal. And I I had, because I was working, I was a dance teacher at the dance studio that I had grown up at my whole life. um I told my boss, I told her that I would be back and dancing by the end of the year's like recital dance show type thing, which was, I think it was like only 5 or 6 months. I was like, yeah, I'll be back to normal by then. I'll be fine. I'll be back to normal. It's good. But obviously that didn't happen. And I was like, okay, fine. I didn't meet that goal, but a year and I'll be fine. And obviously strokes are really complicated and everybody's different, but that obviously didn't happen. So I'm honestly still just on my road to recovery with that. And I forget where I was going with that,
That's
but
all right. You're on the road to recovery. So what are
yes.
you doing these days? You're 24,
Mhm.
7 years have passed. How are you occupying your day?
I honestly focus a lot on oh yeah, I was saying that like uh how I'm if I went back to what I was doing. I did end up going back to school, not what I was doing before. I tried that and it wasn't really for me. So I ended up just going back to school for a quick year program for office administration. And I did some work in that, but I didn't end up uh, really doing much with that. I ended up getting married. So I'm living with my husband. We're living in the States now. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm from Canada. And he's actually an emergency nurse now. So I'm just kind of living off of a visa and doing kind of like a housewife thing, I guess. Um, so yeah, so it's kind of, I just kind of these days work on my recovery, go to the gym, that kind of thing. So
Awesome, awesome. Now I'm
yeah.
just trying to understand like where you're at, because I was similar in that it's February for me is the 10-year anniversary since the first bleed in the brain, and then
Oh,
there was a
wow.
couple more after that. And honestly, I could say that I think for about 7 or 8 years, I was kind of in no man's land. I was just in this weird place where I was attempting to do normal life, or whatever normal life was. And for
Yeah.
me, it involved being a husband and a dad and all the usual stuff. And
Yeah.
I had to go back. I couldn't go back to my regular work. I had to do other work, and that was temporary. And then I was just going to go through the next phase, whatever that was. But there was a ton of recovery in that 7 years that didn't involve um, the regular going to rehabilitation type recovery.
Yeah.
It was
Definitely.
strange. Like, it was happening kind of in my mind and in my body and in my heart. Like, it was a
Hmm.
different kind of recovery, and I needed stillness, and I needed to do as little as possible, and I needed not to have complications in my life. And then the kind of the switch kind of flipped
Hmm.
at around the 8-year mark,
Okay.
where I kind of felt like, oh, I've got to go back to this thing that I had in my mind, or this thing that I was going to do.
Okay.
And then it happened. I was similar to you. So I can relate to what you're saying, that there's no real plan. It's just
Yeah.
about being and getting better, and then finding a way to overcome your daily challenges, whatever they are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I like to say too, I I was definitely stuck on like, and I hear this a lot, honestly, like hearing other people who have had strokes. It's always about trying to get back to the old me and whatever. And I like to just kind of think of, not that like it's kind of morbid to say, but I like to just kind of think, oh, the old me is dead. Like I'm a completely new person now since the stroke, and I have to just accept and adapt. And it's really all about adapting to me. I kind of just feel like I'm taking on this new lifestyle, I guess. And yeah, it's, you kind of have to just let go of the old you. You can take and pull things from the old you, of course, like you're not gonna just completely leave that in the dust, but yeah, it's, you really just have to kind of start fresh almost. It's kind of like a rebirth type thing.
Yeah, they're common words. They're words that lots of stroke survivors use, 100%. And I like the fact, your mindset is not stuck in the past. It's a going forward mindset. It's about growth and
Yes.
change and adapting. And that's really what it's all about. I mean, even if you haven't had a stroke, but you've had a serious relationship issue with somebody, many years ago, again, it's adapting. You want to leave behind the part of you in that relationship that acted incorrectly, or
Yeah.
that was emotionally distraught by whatever it was that went wrong. But then you also want to bring forward with you those lessons and grow and change and evolve.
Mhm.
But the same person comes with you. Maybe you're doing different tasks. So, for example, you're not dancing now, but how are you enjoying yourself? How are you occupying or feeling that little creative part of yourself?
Well, I mean, it is hard because yeah, my creative outlet was always dance and soccer and like things like that. But I guess now, I mean, honestly, just in the past, like, I don't know how long has it been, like 6 months only. I started YouTube channel, and I kind of just like upload videos on how I've adapted as somebody with hemiplegia and how I do like normal day-to-day things with a disability, things like that. So I guess that's kind of filling my creative outlet right now. I did go through like a makeup phase where I was like doing makeup as like kind of a job, and I did makeup on a movie set. So that was kind of like my creative outlet for a while. But yeah, I guess for creative, probably like YouTube and social media and things like that. But for like, I guess an active outlet instead of doing dance, because I can't really do that anymore. I have really gotten into hiking with my husband. We really, well, we haven't gone in the winter months because it's kind of chilly out on the mountain, but there's a lot of mountains where we live. So yeah, we've really enjoyed climbing mountains, and it's kind of crazy to do with hemiplegia. It's really hard, but it's definitely an accomplishment when I do get through the whole hike. It's like, another one done, and it really feels good to be able to do that. So
Yeah,
that's, I guess, another outlet for me. So
yeah. And I love that. A lot of people get creative after a stroke and they jump on social media. They share tips and tricks and what's helping them. And that's how I got creative as well. It's when I started the podcast, it was in 2015. I wasn't doing a lot of episodes. I was really bad at it. I was slow. I was all sorts of things. I couldn't edit that. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it, and it was helping me more than it was helping anybody else. I think at the beginning that might have switched a little bit now, but you do share some pretty cool things that even I haven't considered on your Insta page.
Okay.
And we'll share all the links to your socials and your YouTube. People will be able to get that from the show notes.
Cool.
The very first thing that I saw was that how do you plug in your phone to
Oh,
recharge with
yeah.
hemiplegia with one hand
Yeah.
less? How do you do that? And it's like, I never considered that would be the that would be driving me bananas, not being able to charge my phone. I can't
Yeah.
plug it in at the best of times. Sometimes the cable goes in wrong, or it doesn't go properly, or it doesn't connect properly. It drives you nuts. And you've got tips like that, and I think that was great, that little video that I saw, how to plug in the iPhone. So I'm going to share that as well via the show notes so that people can see that.
Awesome. Thank you.
What has your feedback been from people who have come across your page?
Yeah, honestly, just like kind of like what you said, like you wouldn't really think about it, but it really is like the little things, like day-to-day little monotonous tasks that you don't think would be a struggle or anything like that. But I always say, like, you have to, whenever I do any task at all, like even if it's just getting up to go walk over and grab something, I always kind of just plan out how I'm going to go about doing that, when I'm going to grab things, like how I should grab things, because honestly, you have to kind of plan it out. I don't know. It's always been like something that I had to do, but a lot of people, yeah, they really just say that they're like really shocked that like some of the things that you really have to relearn a different kind of movement pattern for, or like rethink how to do, like you don't think of it as somebody maybe without a disability. They're just like, oh, like it's just a normal task that anybody can probably do. But yeah, a lot of just like love and support. I'm really lucky and happy that everybody's been really nice and supportive of everything that I post. So it's been really nice, honestly. So yeah.
What's the hardest thing that you have to do with hemiplegia? What's the hardest task to accomplish?
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
I mean, immediately, I want to say just like, kind of like my physiotherapy that I do for myself is really like always going to be the hardest thing, because it's just aggravating to have to, and really uncomfortable to have to do things that make you uncomfortable, but the uncomfortable is what's going to make you better. So honestly, that
does that mess with your head? So you have to do something that's uncomfortable. Is it also painful sometimes?
Yes, definitely can be super painful. Honestly, it's not pleasant usually at all. So
you've got to think about, it's time for me to do my exercises. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be painful. Mm-hmm. It's going to be frustrating and annoying and all that sort of stuff. But I have to do it because that's the right path to recovery. That's the only way recovery is going to happen. Do you sometimes have enough and go, I'm not doing any of this junk anymore, like I'm not doing it anymore, and stop, and then do you get over it? Like, how does that work?
I definitely have. I've gone through my different stages. Like I was doing outpatient therapy at the hospital after I got discharged from being an inpatient. That one I did get discharged from because they ultimately told me that they didn't know how to further my recovery. At that point, I was like best that they could make me, essentially. So I moved on to a personal trainer he's quadriplegic. So he walks with 2 canes on both of his arms. He's honestly really amazing. What like his knowledge of paralysis and everything like that. But then I think I eventually, I got to the point, like even just working out with him, where I was like, ugh, okay, like this is just getting repetitive and I'm kind of over it. So I did stop doing any kind of physiotherapy, even for myself, for I think like a couple years at least. And then like it wasn't until I feel like the beginning of 2021 where I really started committing to going to the gym. I think I was going a few times a week at least. And I still do. That's something that I do. But I just actually put out a brand new series on my YouTube channel today, actually, was my upload date. And I'm calling it Breaking 10,000 Barriers. That's the series. And it's because I explained it in the video, but essentially I kind of Googled because I was curious if there was like a scientific number of repetitions of an exercise that you would have to do before like relearning a neuro connection, neural pattern type thing. And I got an answer that was 10,000 repetitions of an exercise and you'll relearn it. So I did the math, and if I do 30 repetitions of an exercise per day, I'll relearn it. So I have a number of exercises that I do, and I'm doing monthly updates for my series. That's kind of what I'm doing for that. So I've really gotten into that at the start of 2022. So, and there have been some days actually since I started January 1st this year where I like, well, there's been a couple of days that I haven't felt well either, where I've been sick and I'm like, okay, I'm just not doing it today. I don't care. But yeah, there are definitely some days where it's just, I don't want to feel defeated that day by having to do these exercises, and I'd rather just not feel uncomfortable that day. So I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. It's
But
333 days to get to 10,000, by the way.
holy.
If you do 30 repetitions a day, it's 333 days that you have to do that.
Okay, yeah. I think I rounded up a little bit because it was like 27 point something. So I just rounded up to 30 because I was like, I'm going to miss some days anyway. So I might as well just round it up to the closest 10 number. So
they do, there is a bit of discussion out there about the 10,000 rule where, you know, to become a great public speaker, you'd have to do 10,000 hours, you know,
God.
to become an expert in your field, you know, you have to do 10,000 hours. There's all this 10,000 hours thing. And I think it makes you very competent to be able to do 10,000 hours in anything. If you do 10,000 hours of reading on just one topic, you'll become an expert in that topic, but it obviously still allows for more of an opportunity to learn later on. But yeah, 10,000 tasks or repetitions is a good, it's a good target, because when you get to it, it's going to be quite an accomplishment regardless.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Huge.
For sure. Yeah.
Something to brag about and to be really proud about, that you got there and that you persevered. And you're probably going to learn a lot about yourself, because you're going to have those down days that are not the ones that you just said, oh, I felt tired, I don't want to feel bad. You might have other issues that come up that you start to notice that might be getting in the way of the rest of your life. And you might be going, oh, okay, I didn't know that I was doing that or behaving that way. And you'll get this awareness, and you'll get this wisdom from it.
For sure. Yeah. That was another thing that I thought, honestly, it's going to be a journey. It's going to be really hard, but I feel like, I'll probably learn a lot about myself during it. And I think I also said, I forget what the number was, but it was only like 1.7% of people in the US have stated that they have or are living with some type of paralysis. So I was like, well, if I'm that like small portion of the population, who am I to not try this challenge? Because not many people can say that they want to try and defeat paralysis. And I figured it'd be a nice challenge to do. So
absolutely, and a good story to share. And regardless of the outcome, the fact that you've gone through that process is going to be a big win anyway. You'll, like I said, you'll learn a lot. You will achieve something. You will get better at something. You will feel better about yourself having gone through that. I mean, there's so many positives to it. There's no negatives at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like too, like I'll at least have a little bit of recovery. It might not be perfect, and all of the exercises that I'm doing to regain a specific movement, not all of those are going to be perfect, and I might not even get like a lot of them, but I'll still get something out of it, I'm sure. So yeah, just something to look forward to with that. So
Yeah. Good on you. On the other videos on your YouTube channel at the moment, you've got waking and you've got walking and running for the first time post-stroke. You've got driving with an assistive device, which is really cool because people need to see that that's a possibility for them. That's great. Wrapping Christmas presents one-handed. Yep. I can't wrap Christmas presents under normal conditions. They always look messy. You know, when you go to the store and you say to them, can you please wrap my gifts for me? And then you compare those gifts to the ones that you're wrapped and yours look terrible.
Yeah, they're always so good at it at the stores.
Yeah.
It's not even a comparison.
Yeah, the professionals, they've done 10,000 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And we only do it for about 30 minutes every Christmas.
Yeah, exactly.
We're never going to get to 10,000 hours.
No,
and then you've got how to type with hemiplegia, so one-handed.
Yes.
And traveling, you've got what's in my carry-on. So they're the ones that I can see right now, but I'm sure there'll be others. So I think it's going to be really useful for people to, in the early stages of their recovery with hemiplegia, they're going to be able to have a really good resource of somewhere where they can go, I wonder what she does for this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's the really what's the word? I guess I was really just excited because I didn't have something like this. I know when I first was navigating being hemiplegic, I was sitting in my hospital bed on my phone on YouTube trying to kind of look up like different ways. I would see videos of people like tying their shoes with one hand, which I've done a video on too. But really that was like the only thing that like people were curious about. There wasn't like a lot of one-handed tricks, and honestly not a lot of channels just specifically dedicated to doing things with one hand. So it wasn't all in one place type thing. So I thought that I would be a good resource since I've been doing it for 6 years, going on 7 in October. I feel like I have some good insight on how to get around it. So I figured it'd be a good idea for me to post videos about it. So
yeah, there's no better reason to do it than that. That's the perfect reason. And women have the other skill that they need to get good at that men don't have to worry about if they're hemiplegic, is women need to put a bra on, but men don't need to do that. So
that's true. Yeah.
I imagine that is a little bit difficult as well. And I've never really understood how women have solved that because I've never delved into that. But have you got a video on that just in case there's any girls listening that want to access that?
I do have a video. I think I called it just like dressing myself with hemiplegia. I didn't specifically do a bra, but I did do like a bikini, like a swimsuit. So I figured you can get the information from that. Essentially, I didn't really want to get into the undergarments. I just felt a little bit uncomfortable with that. So
No, fair enough. I wouldn't imagine that you would need to show yourself. You might use a mannequin, or you might do it on top of a t-shirt so that you don't have to show yourself. But like, I know where you're going. That's why it's a difficult conversation for me to have as well. I don't want to put anyone, under pressure or embarrass anybody. But and so I've never raised it. But since we're on the topics of doing things one-handed, and you're a lady, I think many women would appreciate something along the lines of that. And I do hear that there is some undergarments that are being developed or have been developed to help people that only have the ability to use one hand? I've heard that. I just don't know much about it.
I don't know. I guess like sports bras are kind of like easier to put on. I mean, if we're on the topic of bras, I really just, the only way for like the back clasp ones, I just kind of do them up without them being on. And then you just kind of put them on as a t-shirt, like as you would a t-shirt. So it's not like a huge workaround, I guess.
Okay.
That was one of the first things they actually taught me when I was in the hospital. My occupational therapist went over that with me. One of the first things, she wanted me to dress myself independently. So that was learned very quickly. But I haven't actually heard of that, what you're talking about with the one hand. But I'm sure there's somebody working on something out there with that. So
it's got to be.
yeah.
What about at 17? Your social life's probably huge. Friends, whole bunch of things going on.
Yes. Yeah.
How did your friends react to you having a stroke, and how did that impact your relationships?
Well, they were like coming around a lot in the beginning. That was something that I didn't really get into on my channel. I was going to talk about it, but then I just kind of left it out. I had like a decent sized group of friends, and they did come around in the beginning, I think a couple times. I'm still best friends with the one that I was closest with in that friend group. But essentially, they ended up kind of deciding that I wouldn't be able to keep up with them when it came time for us like making plans to go to like parties or like going out and things like that. So that was not great to hear that I wasn't included because they didn't think I could keep up. But I'm still best friends with my one really good friend from that group. And I have another one of my best friends. I've been friends with her since she was 2 years old and I was 3 years old. So we've been good friends since diapers, literally. So she's still very much in my life too. So I have 2 really good friends and that's about it.
Well, that's more than enough. That's
absolutely.
100 good friends is no such thing as that. It doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
2 really close good friends, they're going to help you get through the dark times, the fun times, and you're going to help them, etc. Right? That's really all that's needed. But it's probably unfortunate, but it's what teenagers do anyway. Like they find the reason to isolate people for no reason anyway. Like they just do that. It's the age. It's not being aware of how their behavior is impacting other people. It's about being selfish and making themselves, putting themselves first, and not having the ability to think about the other person. Did it feel personal, and were you isolated because of it? Did it make you feel isolated?
That really upset me, honestly, when that whole situation happened. I was pretty upset about that, but I guess I don't know how long exactly it took, but I very quickly became happy with my situation of just having a couple friends. I wasn't really into, especially since like my stroke kind of it did slow me down quite a bit. I was kind of happy to just be able to go at my own pace and not kind of feel obligated to have to attend all of the parties and going out and everything like that. So I guess, I ended up just kind of accepting it. And I mean, it was what it was. So I just kind of accepted it.
It happens at every age anyway. It doesn't happen just at 17. And I speak to stroke survivors of every age group. And let me tell you, some friends turn up and some friends don't turn up, and they can't turn up, or they don't know how to turn up. They don't know what to say. It's confronting to see somebody that's had a stroke. Maybe it's a problem. It makes them feel uncomfortable or mortal or all these things.
Yeah,
There's a
definitely.
lot of stuff going on, and the ones that don't turn up are probably doing you a really good favor, because at least they're not turning up with negative energy and
Yes.
being
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And therefore, all you have to do is just worry about yourself and not worry about them.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I had, like I've said before, all of the support in the world from like friends and well, not, I mean, my family, more so my family. And yeah, all of my um aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody, they were always just there showing up for me more than anything. So I definitely didn't feel like I lacked any support or love and anything. So I was definitely good getting through that in that
Yeah.
sense. So yeah.
And how was the family coping? How did they manage with all of the drama that you put them through? I know you said your mum was the first person to attend after the phone calls.
Yes. Yeah.
How did she go through the recovery and all the other stuff that had to happen?
Oh man. Yeah. That was incredibly, I probably aged her so many years because of how stressful that was. I couldn't even imagine if like my own child had a stroke, how I would deal with that. It just, I can't even imagine what she went through. I know she was incredibly stressed at the time. And I know I was so eager to get out of the hospital and get home. I know I was bugging my doctor in the hospital for a discharge date so that I could finally get home. And I know my mom was like not really wanting that. She really wanted me to just stay as long as possible because she wanted me to be able to move around a little bit better so that she didn't have to worry about me if she was at work and I was home alone and things like that. And there was definitely like a few times where like she had scares, like she would come home from work and I hadn't been answering my phone because I was in the shower or something like that. I know because I hadn't been doing independent showers at that point. And my very first time, I just decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my own shower completely independent. I'm not going to tell anybody because my mom's going to rush home and be like panicked and whatever. So I just did it all by myself. And I didn't realize she had been calling me and texting me. I think I had my ringer off on my phone or something like that. And so she came like barging in the door. She said she was expecting to see me like laying at the bottom of the stairs, like knocked out or something. But yeah, she was like, why didn't you just tell me you wanted to take a shower by yourself? I would have been a lot better off knowing that that's what you were doing. But yeah, there was so many times where she was stressed out, I'm sure. And that time being one of them. But yeah, definitely I feel bad for my mom having to go through all that.
Yeah. Look,
So,
they overdo the caring, the mums and dads, and you almost do have to trick them into letting you get to the next stage without them there. You almost have to. I did the same thing. I was 37. My parents were way older. Like I'm a dad already,
yeah,
and I'm also lying and not telling people what I'm doing and how I'm going to do
yeah,
it, and because they do get in the way because sometimes they overcare and they over
yeah,
worry,
yeah,
and
definitely.
then I don't want that stuff to rub off on me, the overcaring and the over worrying. So I
Yeah,
kind of go, well, oh well, I'm just going to do it anyway, and we'll see what happens.
yeah,
Uh, just try and be as safe as possible when you're doing it, and just try and make sure that you've taken precautions so that it goes well, and therefore you don't worry them even more.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was I know my dad was in and out of the hospital I was in too. He was always there helping me too. And there was I think when I was bugging my doctor to like give me a discharge date so I could go home, the one thing she told me was I have to be able to get to the bathroom, do my thing in the bathroom, and get back to my bed all by myself. And I told my dad that because I knew if I told my mom that, she'd be like, no, like you got to call the nurse and they got to help you. But my dad was like, oh yeah, like I'll help you get there. Cause I don't know. He was like all for me being independent. I don't know, but I don't know why there was such a difference, but he ended up setting up in the bathroom in my hospital room a couple commodes around the toilet area so that when I did get there with my cane, I could just kind of like rest my cane against the door and then kind of like hold on to the commodes as I maneuvered my way around to the toilet. And so he did that for me, and I did successfully do that by myself. I think a couple times or a few times or something like that. But then there were a handful of times. I think I told this in like a video on my YouTube channel too. I can't really remember, but there was a handful of times where I ended up falling, and because I was going in the middle of the night, even by myself. And even during the day, like I was just going by myself, and I was kind of rushing because I didn't want a nurse to walk in and find me like going by myself, because I really wasn't supposed to do it by myself, but I wanted to. And yeah, there was a couple times where I could have been seriously hurt, and I did fall, and it was not great, but I figured it out and I got myself back in bed by myself. So yeah, my mom definitely had reason to worry, but I figured it out. So
Your mom's worried she's going to get injured. Your dad's thinking, I'm not going to be coming to the hospital to visit her the rest of our lives. Get her home. Get her out of here.
Yeah, I feel like that was the separation with the thinking on that. So
yeah, and mum's going, let's just put her in some more cotton wool and just protect her for a little bit longer. She's frail, she's fragile, all this stuff. It's a typical mum thing to do. It's gorgeous. I relate to that story of getting to the toilet as well, because I couldn't walk for the first month. I was in a wheelchair for the first month before rehabilitation kicked in and I was able to get on my feet and be independent again.
Yeah.
And I was in the hospital bed and I pressed the button for the nurse to come so that I could go to the toilet, and
yeah,
the nurse wasn't coming. There was no nurse. They were busy.
same thing. Yeah.
Right. And it's like,
they take forever.
I'm not going to just let it happen here. I'm going to go. I'm going to get there. So I dragged myself into the wheelchair. I rolled myself to the toilet. I tried to pull the door, slide the door open, and I got busted by the nurse trying to get up onto the toilet.
Oh no.
And she's like, what are you doing? You can't be doing this. And I was like, well, I have to do this because I've been pressing the button. No one came and I've got to go. I've really got to go. Yeah. And they're like, you shouldn't be doing that. I said to him, look, I said to them, you can either help me get up there, we can argue about it, or you could have been cleaning up something even more terrible. Like, yeah, so, don't complain, just get me up there. Yeah. Anyway, they got me up there and then they wouldn't leave the room. They wouldn't leave the room. And I was like, no, you have to leave. And they're like, no, we're not allowed to leave because it's dangerous and all that type of thing. And I'm like, if you don't leave, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna just clench or whatever. I don't know what I was gonna do. Yeah. I said to her, like, you have to go. And then I said, I promise I won't move. I won't do anything that I'm not meant to do. Just leave, close the door, please. Close the door, please. Close the door. I begged them and I told them to stand outside the door, and they did, thank God. And then that was kind of my first attempt at being independent without anybody. And it was shocking. It was shocking to have to go through that. But
I know.
I kind of gained their trust after that. Even though I was going to have to ask them to at least support me into the wheelchair and then to the toilet, and then the rest of it I was going to do on my own. So they were going to put me up there, but I was going to do the rest on my own. And it was traumatizing it was traumatizing for me. I can't imagine what it's like for some people who have to recover longer than me and have got to go through it all the time. Yeah,
I know. It's that was definitely the worst part. I remember I was, because of all the medications that they have you on right in the beginning, I remember I was really backed up in the beginning and I hadn't gone to like I went pee and things like that, but
Yeah.
I hadn't like gone to the bathroom. In like, I think it was like a couple days or a few days or something like that. And finally it was like time. And I was like, okay, I gotta go like right now. And, I think, oh yeah, my family, they were like, okay, yeah, just go. Cause they had me in like an adult diaper. Cause just in case I were to have an accident or whatever, and I can't have sensation on half of my bladder and things like that. They were like, oh yeah, just go in the diaper. And I was like, I am not pooping in a diaper. That's disgusting. There's no way. So
If I can
yeah.
avoid it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, there's literally no way. It was not happening. So they ended up having to go get a nurse, and that was the worst. That was like the very first time that I went to the bathroom. And yeah, the nurse was literally standing right next to me, like holding my shoulder, and I was just like farting, and it was like so embarrassing. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is my life right now. It's so like dehumanizing. I felt like an animal, like having to use the bathroom with somebody literally holding me up. I was like, this is just not gonna work out. I gotta figure something else out here. So, but yeah,
Stroke
shortly
survivors
after
are
that,
tough, man.
I don't recommend having a stroke to anybody. It's not fun.
No, it's not fun. I mean, what
Yeah.
are you supposed to talk to them about while you're in the middle doing farts? And
I know. It's like, I just kept apologizing. I'm like, I'm really sorry. And she's like, don't worry about it. I deal with it all the time. And I was like, no, like I'm so embarrassed. I'm so sorry that you're listening to this and smelling this right. So, I know.
they are professionals. They're amazing. The nurses and the doctors, mostly the nurses. I had amazing nurses. I had the most amazing male nurse. Oh my God. He was just the
Oh.
next level amazing guy. He was the one that was in my recovery ward after surgery.
Oh, wow.
My
Okay.
God, he was just all over me like a rash. There was nothing that he didn't know that was happening to me that he wasn't aware of and that he hadn't
Wow.
noted. And he
Uh,
got one of the doctors in trouble because the doctor didn't take action on what he requested. He requested blood results and all this kind of
oh,
stuff.
wow.
And
Oh,
the doctor didn't take action on it. And then my surgeon, who came to visit me the next day, had a meeting with the doctor and the nurse at my bedside.
oh my
And she
gosh.
was just telling off this doctor,
Wow.
she was just having a go at him, saying to him, you know, I can't believe that you have a nurse here who has experience and knows what they're doing and has asked you for certain results because he's noticed certain things and you haven't done anything about it. How can you not have done anything about it? And it was just, wow, like
Wow.
I hit the
Well,
jackpot with that guy, I tell you. So they're
yeah.
amazing people. They put up with so much. Uh, he stripped me naked because I had a temperature. He covered me with ice. He did, you name it, every procedure that you could possibly imagine to keep the temperature down and to keep what he thought was happening was infection and all that kind of stuff. And he wanted to get to the bottom of it. And
Yeah.
it's that whole, it's that mindset that we spoke about that the doctors didn't have for you when you got there first. Was he didn't make any assumptions. He just decided
Yeah.
that what we need is to get answers to all these things, and these are the things that need to be done. But the doctor he was dealing with was making assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't taking the word of the nurse. And maybe he thought he was smarter or better or whatever. I don't know what. Maybe he was having a bad day.
Maybe.
But it's a lot to learn from that thing. You know, you've got a person in hospital, they're a patient. You have
Mhm.
to assume that they're unwell. You don't,
Yeah.
and even if it is drugs, you have to assume that the drugs have made them really unwell
Yeah.
and their life is at risk. Instead of assuming they're on drugs, they'll get over it.
Yeah. And that was the main thing too. When like I did arrive to the hospital, it's like, okay, I wasn't on drugs or drunk or anything like that. I was underage. So obviously not. But regardless if I was like, I'm still a patient, I'm still seeking help. Like you have to see the clear symptoms in front of you and make a diagnosis upon seeing that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the craziest thing, because I was showing like complete left side paralysis. Half my mouth was paralyzed, half my face, like everything was paralyzed on my left side, and the vomiting, just everything added up. It was stroke, right? So it just, yeah, it's really nice though, that you had that nurse as like an advocate for you. It's really
That's exactly what
nice
he
to
was.
have somebody like that. Yeah.
That's exactly what he was. That's the best way to describe him. He was amazing. So tell me about your husband. How long have you been married?
Not very long. We just got married March, May. Wait.
You've already forgotten your wedding anniversary. Congratulations.
It's May 2021. So just, it's coming on a year.
All right. Just to show you how I'm better than you, today is my wedding anniversary.
No.
The 28th of January is my wedding anniversary, and this year we've been married 26 years. So that's how you're supposed to say it to not get in trouble with your spouse.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so coincidental that it's your wedding anniversary
And
too.
you can't remember yours. Oh my gosh, is it the stroke? We'll blame the stroke.
I do remember it. I always mix up March and May for some reason. Honestly, before this stroke, those 2 months, for some reason, you couldn't make me decipher them. I don't know why, but definitely May 10th, 2021.
Fantastic.
That was when we got married.
And was it, obviously it worked out beautifully. Was it difficult to date, considering that you had hemiplegia and you had to deal with all of that complicated version of dating, which was different from quote unquote normal dating?
Yeah, absolutely. I had quite my bout of strange people and people that just didn't accept like me being disabled and things like that. Luckily, I came across Brandon, and he was a nursing student when we met at the university that we were both at. And honestly, for people who had strokes, I feel like nurses are like the best partners, because they just understand everything. They know all the terminology, they know how to work with you. And yeah, he's honestly great about it. He helps me with my recovery and my physiotherapy sometimes if I need help, and anything, honestly, if I need him to. I like, whenever I get new shoes or anything like that, he pre-ties them for me. So he's really honestly amazing and so helpful, and I couldn't have asked for somebody better. So yeah, they're amazing people. I love nurses.
Sounds like you both hit the jackpot.
Yeah, he's happy too, I hope.
Yeah, I love nurses. And I love that approach, especially, well, because I can't relate to nurses at all, but other than the way that I've been supported by them, they're amazing. And I know that females as nurses have that nurturing side of them, and it's usually associated with motherhood and being nurturing and the usual kind of stuff. But when you get a male nurse who's nurturing and caring and that next, it's a completely different thing. Just for me, it was like, first that nurse was kind of like, yeah, like you're a dude, and all this kind of stuff. Then it's like, oh my God. And then you're so caring and kind and compassionate and supportive. And it's like, whoa, what a guy. Just amazing. And I had a bit of a man crush on him because I was so well treated, and he was on my side, and he just, and that's kind of the sense I get when you tell me about your husband. It's like, people would think he's a hero. Like
yeah. Everybody at the hospital he works at just loves him. He's the most like chill and like calm guy, but like just so amazing and helpful. And nurturing, and he's just amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's definitely one of those. Oh, sorry, that was my notification. My mom texted me. Yeah, he's definitely one of those one of a kind guys. So
Yeah, fabulous. Well, I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. I really enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much for being here. You're doing great work. And
yeah.
if people wanted to find you on, I will share the links anyway, but if they're listening and they haven't had a chance to look at the show notes, if people wanted to find you on Instagram,
Mhm.
where will they do that? What is your Instagram handle?
It's at Shae the Stroke Survivor.
Yep.
So you spell Shae SHAE instead of the Shea Butter. It's different.
Yeah. Right. And the YouTube channel.
You can honestly just find me by typing in my first name, Shaelyn. It's SHAELYN. So
All right.
yeah, I pretty much pop up if you just type in Shaelyn, I guess, or Shae the Stroke Survivor. I'm sure it comes up too. I'm not sure.
Yep, no worries. And if you can't find it, well, then just head to the show notes on the recoveryafterstroke.com website and you'll be able to see it there. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun. This is an amazing thing that you're doing here. And I really appreciate that you have these resources for people who need some insight and guidance after having a stroke. So thank you.
My pleasure. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and learned something. Please comment, like, or share. Give the episode a thumbs up, and every interaction with the show online helps the podcast rank better and therefore be found easier by stroke survivors from all around the world. And hopefully that will help them on the path to their recovery, and it might make their recovery a little easier because they'll find what you were looking for at those very early stages of stroke recovery. It might even make a massive difference for their caregivers. So if you can, leave the show a 5-star review, thumbs up, leave a comment. Anything you can will make a massive difference. Thank you so much for listening.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gassiamas. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.